Hello everyone. Hope you guys had a great week and were able to get everything that you had to get done before spring break this week. Just to check in, I've been doing pretty well, thankfully. Nothing's really changed from everything that I've been doing before, but I have started working out again, so that's nice. And I did get to go to Carlsbad Caverns with my family, so that was nice to experience with them. But other than that, everything's been pretty much the same. So now to jump into the composer report for this week, I did decide to choose Duke Ellington for this week. And to start off, he was born in Washington, D.C. on April 29th in 1899. And he died in New York on May 24th in 1974. So what I thought was interesting, before I jump into his life story, was his name. So I thought that Duke was his real name, I guess. But it said that the Duke part was a nickname that he had got from his childhood friends because they said that his demeanor was very elegant. So they just gave him the name Duke. So I guess he kind of just stuck with that. But to continue, he, in his early childhood, when he was around the age 7, he did take piano lessons. He did end up getting kind of tired of it and he was kind of bored from the piano. So he did end up quitting that. But then in his teenage years, he had another grand awakening and he kind of fell in love with the piano again. So he did end up going back to learning about the piano. Then in 1914, he ended up composing the Soda Fountain Rag by ear, which I thought that was kind of cool how he didn't have to do anything else. Like he could just listen to it, do what he had to do, and just made music. So that was pretty interesting. Something else that was interesting, or surprised me, I would say, was that he was actually fired from many different groups that he worked with. Some of the bands and stuff that he worked with, he was fired because of the fact that he wouldn't read music. So after that, he ended up leaving art school and he decided to go study harmony and piano theory with Oliver Perry and Henry Grant. And this led him to becoming a music professional. So that's pretty interesting as well. By 1917, he ended up founding his first band. And they went by the name of the Duke's Colored Syncopator. I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But they were later renamed to the Washingtons. And then after falling in love with musical theater, he began to study composition and orchestration, and ended up doing his first show that went by the name of Chocolate Kitties, and this was in 1925. So between 1927 and 1931, he was working at this place called the Cotton Club. He still was in his band, but they were also working there as well. It was located in Harlem, and it was a venue that was mostly for rich white people. You could say that's what the article said, so rich white people. Something that was mentioned that I kind of didn't expect them to bring up was the fact that he did suffer for depression. I'm sure that we know a lot of people suffer depression, and I'm sure a lot of musical people suffer from depression as well. But it's not something that's brought up or talked about. So I thought it was interesting that they mentioned it and didn't try to hide it, that, we know that he was going through stuff as well, like any ordinary person would, basically. He did get international recognition once him and his band went on tour in Europe. There was a lot more information that was that I read on there, but those were the main points that really caught my eye. But he also performed in the orchestra up until March of 1974. After this, he did end up being diagnosed with lung cancer, and he was hospitalized for that up until his dying day. But even with him being hospitalized and everything, he still was composing music up until the day he died. So that's pretty remarkable that he just pushed through and kept doing what he had to do to get his music out there, even with everything that was going on with him. So that was very interesting. But for the song that I chose, I decided to choose Sea Jam Blues. Right away when the music started, it sounded like something you could get up and dance to, like something they used to play in the clubs back in Harlem, the jazz clubs. That's what it really, really sounded like. I right away from the happy soundings, I noticed that it was a major scale right away. So that was pretty interesting to hear. I enjoyed hearing how the piano started off with everything, but other instruments began to come into play as well. So string instruments came into play and it added a bit more flavor to the piece. And also the trumpet and the saxophone, it kind of gave you like a backbone to the piece, if that makes sense. Like it kind of made the piece everything that it needed to be. But also, even with all the different instruments that were being played, there was still like a consonance because everything just fit together very, very well. So it was never like one instrument was more louder than the other. It's like everything just flowed the way it needed to be. I can honestly say that this piece wasn't something that we've heard in the class before, or at least I personally don't think so. Because it's more jazzy, and I feel like we weren't listening to stuff that was like very jazzy, but this is very, very jazzy. And overall, I can say so far, out of all the composer reports that I've done, this is probably one of my favorite pieces, just because of the fact that it reminds me of like the oldies that I listen to and that my parents used to listen to. So it kind of reminds me of that. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoy your spring break, and I can't wait to see the rest of your guys' composer reports as well.